Hey everybody, welcome back to the YouTube channel. This is the Story Arcs. I'm Max Prime. Today I have a very special guest with me, writer, legend, the most awesome person that I've met so far today. And see that I do that to every guest I have on the show. It's pronounced.
Boy, are you going to be disappointed?
It is Jamie. Is it pronounced Frevele?
Yes, perfect.
Like Beverly. So Jamie Frevele is on the show today. I had a chance to talk to her a little bit. I wanted to know more about her origin story, and I wanted like the people of my YouTube channel, subscribers, even people that are new to the channel to learn all about Jamie. So first off, first question, and this is the most important question. What is your origin story? What is your background story? Who is Jamie?
Oh, easy answer. My origin story starts really early because I was a dark little child. I was into dark stuff like that I probably shouldn't have been allowed to watch, like when you are a kid and whoever is watching you shows you something, they go, "Oh, that's probably going to ruin them." I watched a lot of those, like the last unicorn. I was into Ghostbusters. That was like my favorite. There was just a lot of really dark cartoons that looked really cute on the outside. But I've been a writer as long as I could tell stories. As soon as I could write, I did write. My fourth grade class always had a creative writing thing where my teacher would throw little torn up paper things in a jar that had topics in them, and it was my favorite part of class. And I always got great feedback on my stories, as a 9-year-old. But it was always so fun to think of stories, and I've always just wanted to write them. I wrote haunted house stories. I wrote murder stories. I read R.L. Stein and all those Fear Street books and Stephen King. And I was just super into the supernatural and even true crime as a little kid. Like I remember watching Unsolved Mysteries and just being one of those kind of totally like Wednesday Addams. Like we kind of had this conversation off screen, but I am fully Wednesday Addams. And it started early, and it was really my parents, my dad's a classic rock dude, like motorcycles. He used to be a firefighter, and my mom is a Disney person, which I also am, but also into the supernatural. So I kind of got a mixture of just like a whole bunch of creative weirdos.
So we could talk possibly conspiracies and stuff, mysteries, conspiracies, dark stuff.
Oh, we sure can. We sure can.
We'd have to make a whole video on that. We have to get together and do that. Yes,
I was super into the X-Files back in the day, and one of my other favorite shows was Erie, Indiana.
Yes.
Which was basically Twin Peaks.
Yes.
And I think it's on Hulu or Amazon, and I really need to rewatch it. And it was just one of my absolute favorite shows as a kid, and I was also the target audience.
So how did you go then from like I said, being in school, like writing then, how did once you, let's say, got into high school, close to, being a young adult, what made you then say, you know what, I'm going to be a writer? Like I was writing stories then, like what cemented it for you to go that direction?
Oh God, Scream did. It's such an easy answer because when I was that movie came out in 96. So I was in 10th grade and I didn't see it until it was on video. And I was completely in love with it. And I was like, it's horror, it's comedy, it's like really good writing. All the actors are super gorgeous and hot. And what's not to like? It's got the worst, scariest monster in it, which is like the boy next door. The everyday dude, your everyday friends are the ones who are the murderers. That's the best monster of all for me. And what really, really got me about Scream was that it was so funny. And I was like, I didn't realize this could be funny. because when you grow up on slashers, there's a little bit of comedy in them, just a little bit for relief. But Scream was like funny. It was clever, and it made it so fun. So I wanted to learn how to write screenplays because I wanted to write something like Scream. So I actually just wrote a Scream fan fiction,
Nice.
full length screenplay. Actually, I
Nice.
wrote a Scream 2 fan fiction because I was very upset that Randy died. So I wrote my own version of Scream 2, and he died anyway, but he died after losing his virginity to a character who looked very weirdly like me. And I died too because I was a little goth girl. But I wrote an original one after that, and it's like by the time I was 19, I wrote 2 full-length screenplays, which were not good, but they were finished. Like, who gets to say that? Like, that was what set me in motion, was Scream and comedy. And because it was also Saturday Night Live, I wanted to write sketches and performance sketches. I was a theater nerd. I was into all that. And I kind of just wanted to do everything. I wanted to write, I wanted to act, I wanted to, I guess, produce, but not really knowing what that meant. Just,
Yeah.
I guess it meant I had control over stuff, which I always liked. But it was definitely Scream that got the ball rolling. And then a couple of years later, The West Wing came out. And that was really that was like the shift from being a kid to being a young adult. And that was what made me want to be a really good writer, not just a funny writer or a fun writer. I wanted to be that good. And I didn't want to be the next Aaron Sorkin. There already is one, but it was like, I want to be as good as I think he is. I want my writing to make other people feel the way his writing makes me feel.
Well, then, see, that's where always was curious about, like, even a person who writes comic books, let's say, right? Like, I have a couple, favorite writers who have written like some of the greatest graphic novels ever. And like, what would you say to a person like said that example, like how do you, if you read like a really great story and like, wow, that motivated me to write myself and stuff. But then it's like, kind of, how do you stay away from like exactly copying your favorite writer or your favorite, like screenplay writer? Like, how do you kind of like make something like your own? I guess that was the question. Or
Oh, well, I mean, it's what I was always trying to do, honestly, in the beginning, like the very beginning, is you try to copy the person that inspires you the most while finding your own voice. And it's difficult because, when you're an emotionally immature person, you just want to copy because you don't know any other way. And when you're a dumb teenager, you really don't know any other way. So, I mean, I was doing my own stuff before all that too.
Yeah.
And when you're being shaped as a human being, just as a person in general, like you learn it. Like there's so much emphasis on youth that it's stupid. It's like, okay, I'm sure these 20 somethings have a great story to tell, but it's going to look really dumb in 10 years. Like maybe it won't, but I look back at stuff I wrote when I was a teenager and in my 20s, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I wanted someone to read this. Like, why did I let anyone look at this? It's so stupid. And on the other hand, it's a kind of beautiful thing because you can see how far you've come. Like, I like the fact that I didn't hit my peak in my 20s. Like, I didn't deserve it. I didn't earn it. I didn't work as hard as I wanted to. I did a lot of junk writing, which I think is also still good and writing because you're exercising but it's taken me a long time to really find my voice and confidence as a writer. And if you don't do that like before you're 20 or before you're 30 or even before you're 40, then that's okay. It's like, live a life, gain some wisdom and experience and learn what people are like, get your heart broken, get your heart blown up, be a person with life experience so you have stories to actually tell instead of trying to do other people's stories in other people's voices. It's okay. If you're old, it means you're alive, and that's good, because the alternative is you're not telling anybody stories.
So my next question is just because your background, like from going from like writing screenplays, writing fan fictions, writing stories, and then I was looking at your background. Then how did you go from like going from that and then into like writing, like being like a journalist, being a blogger, being a writer for websites? How did that like just transition? Was it just like a smooth crossover? Just
It it's sort of just one of those things where I met the right people in the right place. I was doing a lot of comedy in my 20s, like sketch comedy and improv and stuff,
Mhm.
and just people I met um, worked in media, and they gave me connections. And I've always written. I had dropped out of college a couple of times, but in between that, I was still writing and blogging, and I ended up writing for Huffington Post really early on. And I will not let you know where you can find those links because they're terrible. um, it was before I learned that when you are in your 20s, no one cares about your opinion. And it's not just that. I don't really care about anyone's opinion. And I certainly don't care about my 20-something-year-old opinion. But it was the George Bush era. And I was like, I'm really angry. And it was just, there's my outlet. And I would just windbag write these like dumb posts, but I thought I was so smart. But maybe they weren't that bad because they got me other gigs. They got me writing for other sites, and they got me noticed. And it was like, "Ooh, you write for Huffington Post," which was a big deal in the 2000s. And it just one thing led to another, and it just built. And I just kind of built this sort of portfolio of blogging and comedy writing, and like I had sketches, I had videos, I did a couple of videos that I'm not going to tell you about. I like three of them. I like three of them. Um, but some of them just haven't aged well. It was a different time. This was like 2008, 2009.
Yeah,
Things are different.
yeah.
I'm a different person. I always felt like my approach to comedy at that age was too mean. When I look back at myself, I'm too mean, and it's a much more supportive scene now, and I celebrate that instead.
I have a question. So this is
Okay.
branch off from writing. Let's talk about this sketch comedy thing. What
Okay.
like what do you what that look? So what are your favorite like sketch comedy, like, because like what inspired you? Like 'cause I watch a lot of sketch comedy, love it. Like I used to watch like Mad TV and like shows like
Yeah.
that. Like what were some of yours? Like how did that?
I I was SNL all the way. I was hugely, I mean, I grew up when I was a teenager. It was like the Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry, Anna Gasteyer, Molly Shannon seasons, Norm Macdonald and Colin Quinn. That was like my SNL year. It was just after, Spade and Sandler got fired. But I knew about those guys because of the movies they were doing, and it was like, oh, they're from SNL. And Wayne's World I knew about. I knew about the original season of SNL, like Gilda Radner, Bill Murray, because I was into
Yeah,
Ghostbusters.
yeah.
So, and Ghostbusters is my favorite movie, so it shaped a lot. And when I found out these guys were on Saturday Night Live, that was like my gateway.
Okay.
And that was at 9 years old. So my parents started me young,
Wow.
even though my mom was like, I can't show her like George Carlin's Seven Dirty Words. Like, we can't show her the Robin Williams special. Like, my parents had great taste in comedy really early on, but they liked all these guys they weren't going to show their, 6-year-old daughter
Yeah, yeah.
stuff. I found it anyway. But I wanted to be that fearless, but I was really, really too afraid to. But I have actually a funny story about Jimmy Fallon. When I was about 19 or 20, I had such a crush on him. He was like the young 24-year-old, like with the messy hair and the guitar. He was super cute. And he was just always the cute boy. And I was predictably in love with him. And I actually sent him a fan letter on a bar mitzvah card. And I was going to meet up with this other girl in this city. I was with my buddy Pete, and he came with me. like hang out with this girl, and we were outside 30 Rockefeller Center because it was the only place I really knew, because I'm from Long Island and I wasn't going to the city too much. And Pete and I are waiting outside 30 Rockefeller Center, and Jimmy Fallon walked by with his manager. And I was just like, no way. And he's like, Pete's like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm just going to, hi, Jimmy. And he went, hi. And I was like, oh my God. And like about a million thoughts went through my head. And I was like, well, this may be my last chance. So I got up and I chased him down the sidewalk. And I said, Jimmy, wait. And he turned around when he should have run in the other direction. He should have like called the police. But he saw like this little 19-year-old whatever running after him. And I was like, did you get my bar mitzvah card? And he was like, that was you. And oh, holy shit, he remembered. So that was pretty cool. And he was really sweet and nice. And I told him I wanted to do sketch comedy, and he told me to do Upright Citizens Brigade. And I did it. And they were only doing improv. And improv was very scary at that time for me because there's no script.
Yeah.
And I was very bad at it because I was constantly like in my head writing things to do, like writing scripts in my head when that's exactly what you're not supposed to do. I didn't get improv until like my late 20s.
Wow.
But I got there because Jimmy Fallon recommended it. And he got me to finally find a place to go on stage and start. And I started meeting sketch comedy people from there. And it was so fun. It was such a great outlet because I got to experiment. I got to meet all kinds of people. The boys were so cute. I had like crushes on so many dudes in the comedy scene. And I got to perform, and I got to write, and I got to perform what I wrote. And it was so fun. And the instant gratification of the like hearing an audience laugh is just like it was the absolute best. It got really exhausting and competitive though, because like eventually everyone wanted to be on Saturday Night Live who was in New York.
Yeah.
And it was like, do you have a one-woman show? And I was like, God, no. Those are awful. Why would I want to do that? And it got to the point where it wasn't really fun anymore. And then when I was 27, they told me I was too old anyway. And I was like,
what?
Yeah. That's what it was like.
So wait a minute. So like by that time with sketch comedy, I would say like when I really got like heavy, I would say into like that was, well, I used to watch a lot, like I said, a lot of Mad TV, Comedy Central, all the different things. Then the birth of like YouTube, right? YouTube comes out, then like everybody has their like little like, you know, channels of like doing like just random sketches, random comedy sketches. And a lot of like people I kind of started watching there. I never knew that age 27 is the death point of a of a comedian. And what that's,
well, it's like 30, but it's for women anyway. But it was a very different scene. Right now, when I look at like women in comedy, there's so much support and it's so much sisterhood, like lifting each other up. And it just never felt like that. It felt like every girl you look at is competing with you. Even if you don't even look like you'd ever be up for the same thing, every single woman is your competition. And meanwhile, the guys could just do whatever they wanted. They could get fat, they could get like bald, they could be 50, and they're like, I'm good. And we're just like, oh God, what do we do? We have to hate each other. We have to kill each other till there's only one of us left. And I just was like, I think I'm out. I think I'm just gonna keep writing.
So,
and that's what I did.
So then I see in your background, I don't know if you're able to like talk about like your Marvel background or not, but you were involved in the comic book world, right?
Yes.
And you were an editor, is that correct?
Yes. Not for comics. Let me be clear. Okay. It was for there's a department at Marvel called New Media. It is a department that creates content for the fans directly, and it was so fun. It was like a great family. And what's good about it is that we got to get our hands into everything. We got to talk about the movies, the TV shows, the toys, the games, the comics. I was on the comics beat, and it was so fun because I was actually new to comics. I had kept trying. Yeah, I know. This is how I didn't understand how I got it. This is where how did I get this job thing keeps happening.
Okay.
And that was Marvel. And when I applied for Marvel, I was at a temp job that kept promising to make me full time and kept not. So I was like, well, I'm going to look for something else. And I saw this position at Marvel, and I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to get this, but I have to apply. And I applied, and I just kept making it to the next phase. And I was like, well, this is exciting. I just keep getting to the next phase. But if I get this far, great. Yeah. And I ended up getting the position, and I was there for 3 years. But I was like, so I became a Marvel fan with the first Spider-Man movie.
Okay.
The first Tobey Maguire movie. And that was when I went into a comic book store, and I was like, I need to read the comics because I want to know the source material. I want to know the stories. I did not know until I worked for Marvel that Spider-Man is probably the absolute worst character to start with. Because I'm a completist, and I'm just like, I want to start at the beginning, and I want to read every Spider-Man you have. And every time I went into a comic book store, I would just get a blank stare, and I couldn't decipher it as, are you sure? I did not, when I got to Marvel and started getting into the comics and saw, not only is there the Spider-Man proper, but there's also all the branch offs. He just actually did that and created more comics. I was like, wow, no wonder they did not know what to say to me, because there's just no easy way to start Spider-Man. You kind of just have to dive in and swim your way out.
And see, and that's where I never really understood comics as far as why there wasn't. Well, there's obviously a beginning, but then it kind of never really kind of ends for that character. That's when I learned about runs of writers, where I learned oh, wait a minute, this writer has the character for X amount of time, and it's just oh, here you go, toss it to the next guy, and then this completely changes the story, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then that's how I've learned about every character has a run, or every comic book has a run, and I'm like, oh, so it never really truly ends and stuff. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's just so many people have there are such legendary runs on Spider-Man where it's if you really do want to start with Spider-Man, just pick a run, find an author, kind of pick your tone. Do you want something kind of funny? Do you want a really dark one? Do you want a Gwen Stacy line, or do you want a Mary Jane line? And it's you got to pick one, start with that, and then kind of see where else you might want to go. Otherwise, I recommend Daredevil. Daredevil is a pretty straight line.
So when you joined Marvel, that was just your introduction, your gateway into the comic book world, huh?
It was, and it was a lot like being dropped into the middle of the ocean and learning to swim out, because it was my job now. But I kind of like that. I kind of like having to figure out my way to survive. And what I mean, I was doing this with comics. What's wrong with that's the best. This was the best way to discover comics, was by diving in way over my head and reading my way out. And I got to just read comics all day, and I would brag to my friends you're not going to believe what I did all day. I just read Moon Knight all day. All day. That was my job today. And it was, oh my God, Moon Knight's my favorite too.
Really?
I fucking love Moon Knight. Am I allowed to curse? Wow. Can I curse? Is it okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. I have no filter anymore. I'm very feral as a person now. So
okay.
I don't know how to be a person anymore.
You're a honey badger now, right? Just
pretty much. Yeah.
All right. So I was gonna say like my crazy world is like the opposite of Marvel to you, where like I um constantly on and off was like on air talent for DC Comics, reviewing DC Comics, and then being a product ambassador for them. And I never really kind of talked about like Marvel, even though I knew it was over there. But I was more focused on the Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, that side of everything. And for years I always said like, oh, I wonder what it's like to like work at Marvel and stuff. Like, man, like I wonder what, like how do I join that team over there? You know, how do
By accident, like I did. No, I loved Marvel stories. Like I knew that the comics existed my whole life. I just, I always wanted to start from the beginning. And it's even like as a kid learning to read, like what I remember reading series of books. And it's like, okay, there are 6 books in this box. You start with number 1. And I remember my mom wanted me to read Little House on the Prairie. And she's like, you can skip the first one. And I'm like, no, I can't. I cannot do that. And then she's like, you don't have to really read the last couple. I'm like, yeah, I do. And when you're like that with comics, then it's like, well, you're fucked. Like, you are absolutely fucked. But when it's your job to look at comics and really dig into the stories for an article, it's there are worse jobs. There are much worse jobs than that. That was my favorite. Like in the beginning, Marvel.com actually changed. We were in the middle of switching sites, and we were putting together character bios and putting together these gorgeous character pages that would appear on the new site. And we had to find images, like certain images, and it would just be like, I just spent all day just looking for images, and oops, I read like 3 really good runs. And it was the coolest way to spend a work day. So it is as much fun. For me, it was the worst days there were far better than the best days I've had at other jobs. Wow. And that was because of the people. It was because of the work itself. There's a Marvel spirit for sure. Like there's a kind of Marvel culture and attitude that makes it very easy to go to work. Made it very easy to go to work. Yeah, like I never dreaded going to work ever at Marvel. Even like when I felt like I was a little shaky in the beginning and still getting used to it. I mean, I always kind of felt like I'm not a good enough fan because I'm a different kind of fan. There was a little bit of that, but that's really on me because there were plenty of people like me. So that was my own insecurity, but I loved it there. I have absolutely nothing negative to say. Every place has its problems. Every place has its politics, its crazy characters, its little things that you wish were different. There's no such thing as a perfect job. But Marvel for me was easily like one of the absolute best I'll ever have.
I was going to say too, this is a little secret, before I started working with DC, I actually came from working at this company that's here where like I live at in Florida called Disney. And I was with the mouse.
I think I've heard of it. I feel like I know the name.
There's a guy who has these ears, and he has like, I used to make this joke, like he has the ears and he has this huge like whip and a megaphone. He's like, get back to work. Shh, no.
Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Yeah.
I'll have to like edit that out. But yeah, so yeah, Oswald. I worked there for a good like almost a decade, and then I was just like, okay, I can't do it anymore. And then like DC door just like opened, and it was just like, hey, come over here. And that was like probably the best thing I ever did in my life. And kind of like similar to yours, like all I did was like talk about comics, and like a lot of the comic books I never even read before was just like, oh, what's this? Poison Ivy? Okay, like Catwoman? All right, never read this before. Okay, and so it as a boy I used to like read comic books, and then I just kind of just stopped, and then all of a sudden that like pushed me back through the door where it's just like, yeah, review comic books. Okay, sure. Like, yeah.
So you could do a lot worse. Yeah, DC. remember when the Tim Burton Batman movies came out.
Yeah.
I didn't see them. I didn't see them in theaters, but I did see Batman Forever in theaters because Jim Carrey was in it.
Yeah.
And I was in love with Jim Carrey back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was super into Batman because of Batman Forever. Like, I wasn't really into Batman. I was into Jim Carrey.
Wow.
And I still love that soundtrack. I really love that soundtrack. It's gorgeous and gothy, and it's so cool. Movie does not hold up. It's so tacky. It's so tacky.
I was like, is that the one with the
Tommy Lee Jones?
It's not the nipples one, right? Is that the nipples one?
No, that was Batman and Robin.
That's yeah, okay.
That was Batman and Robin, and I saw like 5 minutes of it, and I was like, "What happened?
Yeah, yeah.
Is this Batman? Because I don't know if I'm into it anymore." But we know we had the animated series, and the animated series was amazing.
Yes, yes, totally.
Super gothy. I watched that as a kid too, so I was again into stuff that only adults should be watching, and it shaped me.
So so from there, as I watched your like amazing background, it went from then Marvel, right? She knows where I'm going. She knows where I'm going.
Yeah.
So it goes from Marvel to probably one of my favorite pastimes, my favorite things in the world of sports entertainment, the world of the professional wrestling, the world of WWE. So how
good question. I don't know.
You hit two of my favorite like things at the same time. Like how? Like
Marvel I actively pursued.
Okay.
Marvel, I thought like at the time Marvel would be a dream come true, and it basically was at the time. And it still is. I will honestly always treasure that. WWE. So a couple of
Go ahead. It's okay. So again, just for the subs that are watching the channel, make sure again you check out Jamie's website below. It went from Marvel comic books to WWE and being a writer for WWE. Now, as I put that out there for you, like how? And then that transition from comic books to the world of sports entertainment, professional wrestling. How did I'll let you talk.
So a little context. I was laid off due to COVID cutbacks.
Okay.
And I was devastated, like most people were when they got laid off. It was, yeah. It was.
You are. Okay. Continue.
Yeah. So I was in a real state of I was really adrift. I had no blessed idea what I was supposed to do next. I did start writing fiction again, and I was approached to write my first comic for Black Hills Information Security, which you can read on my site. That first comic is on there. And I was really like, okay, well, I spent a large chunk of my career writing about other people's stories. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to write my own stories now.
Yeah.
So after making that decision and then not having any idea what kind of work to look for, I decided to quit drinking and then pierce my nose, in that order.
Okay.
And then a little while after that, I got a message on LinkedIn from someone from WWE saying, "I'd love to see your resume." And I was like, well, that's a mistake. There's no way in ever-loving hell this happened on purpose. But let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? So I was like, sure, I'll show you my resume. And we emailed, and she goes, "I'd love to set up an interview." And I'm like, sure. So we set up a video call, And 15 minutes before the video call, I get a phone call saying, "Do you know what the position is for?" And I'm like, "Oh, she hasn't told me. I thought we were just having a conversation." And he's like, "Yeah, we want to, we have an opening on our staff for a writer at Monday Night Raw." So I get on the phone and she tells me about the position, and I make it very clear I don't know anything about wrestling. And when I say I don't know anything about wrestling, I know it exists, and that's about it. I mean, the last wrestler I knew, The Rock, was a wrestler.
Hey, there you go. See?
Yeah, that was about it. I could not have named or picked out anyone on the roster except for Becky Lynch because I interviewed her while I was at Marvel.
Nice.
At the time, I had no idea who she was.
Yeah.
They told me she was a wrestler, so I was like, okay. And I talked to her, and she was delightful. And that was all I knew.
Yeah.
So after being and I want to emphasize, I was very clear. I was not trying to lie. In fact, this was like my opportunity to be as ridiculously transparent and honest as possible just to see what they would do. And I kept telling them, like, this was such an opportunity for me to like an Andy Kaufman like scenario where it was like, I don't know anything about this. I don't know why you approached me. But I'm not saying I wouldn't take the job if it was offered to me. So I then am told about all the travel, and I'm told about the big personalities, and I'm told about it can be very stressful. It's very like high pressure. And I'm just like, I am a grown ass woman. You cannot scare me.
Yeah.
And I made it to the next round, and I'm up in Westchester, New York, so I am close to Connecticut where their office is, and I drove to the office for my next interview, and once again made it very, very clear. And this was so funny, this interview, because he was making it very, very clear how hard this job was and that it's not for everyone. And I'm just like, okay, I've never watched this show, and I don't know anything about wrestling. And he was like, there's a lot of travel and it's really hard. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have to train me and tell me what all this means because I don't know. And he's like, okay, you also need to know you're going to be on a plane twice a week and you're going to be dealing with wrestlers and other people who are crazy. And that, not his words. I'm just trying to emphasize what we were doing to each other, which was daring each other to make this offer. And I walked out of there going, there is no fucking way in hell he's going to offer me this job. I got the offer 2 days later.
Awesome.
And I was like, well, I'd be an idiot if I said no. I'm being handed a job to work in television.
Yeah.
I wanted to write the stories, and I'm being handed an opportunity to do exactly that. And everything about this is terrifying. I thought nothing could scare me anymore after getting laid off like that and quitting drinking. This was like a serious, like, I picked a hell of a day to quit drinking thing. And it was just like, I have to do this. I have to do this. It's so far out of my comfort zone. It makes absolutely no sense. I have to do this.
So wait, so you had to travel like 2 times a week with wherever there was a Raw show, you would have to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every week we went where the show went. They wanted everyone on site, and I was scared of flying. So I was scared of flying, and I was like, this is how we get over that. This is how we get over our fear of flying, and this is how we get over our ickiness about travel.
Yeah.
And this is also how you move forward in your life and as a person, is you do something that scares you. It's the only way to move, because I felt like I was on a plateau. I really didn't feel like I was going anywhere anymore. And this was the chance to get out of that rut and just do something wild. Like this is so outlandishly weird and insane and illogical that I had to do it. It had to happen, and I spent every single day waiting to be fired. Every single day. I expected to be called and told it's just not working out. And I didn't get that call until 8 or 9 months in. I don't, and you know what? But I tried. I felt very supported by the writing staff. I was fortunately like, I didn't have a bad time at all. Like everyone talks about the work environment there. I was very lucky. And I had a great experience. There were hard days for sure. It is not an easy job, and I would not do it again because I've done it once and it's plenty.
Yeah.
It's for some people. It is absolutely for some people, and it should be. It's the circus. It's like an absolute blast, but it is not a job for everyone. And I found that out by doing it, and sometimes that's how you find out. And I have zero regrets, and I still don't understand how it happened.
Well, that goes into my next question that I would ask you would be like for somebody who, like I said, is just breaking into that, like writing, being a writer, writing stories, writing for TV, writing for comic books, writing for websites. Like, would that be like some of like the greatest like advice that you could possibly give somebody not to be afraid and just jump and just go in?
That, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to do things that scare you because all fear does is hold you back from something that might actually not be that bad in the end. And I wish I had that fearlessness when I was doing comedy, but I just never did. And I think that's what held me back. And I wish I could tell my younger self, don't be so scared, don't be so uptight. But I can't do that. So what I'm telling anyone who's listening now who has an interest in doing something creative or doing something that scares them, do it. For the love of God and for yourself, for the love of yourself, do it. Just try it. And if you're going to, like, I felt like I humiliated myself so many times on stage, in a writer's room, producing this like raw, like we made the impossible happen, and we had to take the blame a lot. And it can be unpleasant, but you cannot shield yourself from unpleasant things just because you're scared of them. You will never, ever, ever, ever grow as a person if you stop yourself from trying something you want to try. I never want to jump out of a plane, and I'm not going to. This isn't something I feel like is going to hold me back as a person. But if I had, well, I've gone on stage with no script, and I've produced a live wrestling show with a team, and it was totally insane. I don't really know what's left. When you're a writer, you have to put yourself out there and pitch things and get rejected tons and tons and tons of times. So, and it hurts, but I'm not scared of it. So get over your fear of rejection by opening yourself up to rejection. You have to. And because you don't have a choice. If this is what you want to do, this is part of the game. And there's just no avoiding it. You're not going to get a home run every single thing you do. It just doesn't happen. And that's okay, because what happens when you don't hit a home run, when you strike out, is you learn how you bat. And you learn how not to bat. And you learn what works. And you also learn how the pitcher works. And you can see the whole field, and you start picking up more as your skill level grows. Next thing you know, you hit a home run.
Exactly.
Because you have learned how to hit a home run. You've picked up the game, you've enhanced your own skill, you know which muscles to use, you know like what to look at from the pitcher. You learn how to kind of be a little psychic about things, but it's not supernatural. It's just life experience. So you cannot block life experience because you're scared of it. You just can't.
Can I vote that you start writing for Adult Swim, please?
Oh my God, I would love to write for Adult Swim. Oh
So
my God.
whoever's watching this or whoever will watch this, please, Adult Swim, Jamie, could you please send her for an interview? Just, please. One
Oh
of
my
the
God, you don't understand. Like, I love Venture Brothers so much.
Oh my God, Dr. Girlfriend.
Oh, I love Venture Brothers so much. I had a big Adult Swim like phase years ago where it was like all the TV I watched. It was like true crime during the day and then Adult Swim at night.
Yeah.
And what's funny is like I'm actually writing a comic that I would love to write for Adult Swim as a series.
So
I've got a pitch.
So wait, so that being said, so on your website,
Mm-hmm.
what is this comic book about? What comic book are you writing? What's on your website? Let us know, please.
Oh, okay. So, well, I don't like to reveal my pitches because I hold them very close to the chest.
Okay.
But I'm working on a few horror stories.
Okay.
That's like my chosen genre. I write fan fiction. Did we want to talk about that?
When you say it like that, sure, go ahead.
It's embarrassing. So one thing that I have learned about fan fiction and myself is that it's a really good tool to find original stories.
Okay.
It's a really fun exercise. My second blog, which is on my site right now, is about how I use fan fiction as a tool these days. And it's like embarrassing because it looks like you're a wannabe writer, but like I am one. So I feel like it's okay. But like, even if you are a wannabe writer, if you're writing anything, it's good.
Yeah.
I feel like things can get a little toasty and a little fired up too much in these kinds of fandom communities. But when it's fun, it's fun. And for me, it's like just ridiculous because I'm doing something I was doing as a teenager. Like, I remember filling up notebooks during social studies just with fan fiction. I was like, this class is stupid. I'm just going to write this. I wouldn't even remember what I was writing. It was like, Are You Afraid of the Dark fan fiction or something.
Yeah.
But I still write it. And it's like, I have a show that is I'm obsessed with, that I write a lot of fan fiction for.
So as I switched our view of our video,
Yeah.
if I could try to pull up your website here.
Oh, okay.
Pull up your website, is that okay?
Yeah.
With everybody?
It's like a little scary because it just went live like 5 minutes before this.
Hold on. Let's see. Camera. Let me see. Keep talking though. Keep talking.
Oh, okay. No, what I like to do with fan fiction is like, if I'm stuck, this is why I like to write fan fiction. If I'm stuck, I just borrow someone else's characters for a little while.
Okay.
And then I write it to find my own original story. And if I can save it from being turned into fan fiction, that's a victory. But sometimes it has to start somewhere, and sometimes it takes borrowing someone else's stories to just get there. And then in the end, you just sort of 50 Shades of Grey that shit, and you change all the names and settings. And that happened. Like, I actually had a thing that was going to be a fan fiction for a show that's on right now that I rescued. And that's a hint, actually, to what the show is. But I rescued it, and now it's going to be something original. So I'm going to tighten that up and pitch that.
Let's let me see. Can I bring up the website? Hold on.
Okay.
So we're gonna bring it up here. So
Keep going out of focus.
Am I out of focus?
No, it's me. I'm going out of focus.
Okay. It's like,
I blame the webcam.
So the comic book, did you mention what the name is? Black Hill? What
yeah, the company is Black Hills Information Security, and they wanted to start publishing a zine called Prompt #. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, or they just call it prompt zine, but they wanted to start publishing like an old school zine, and they wanted to put a comic in it, and they were adapting real life hacker stories. Like, these are hackers who do penetration tests. They test companies to see how secure or insecure they are.
Oh, wow.
To hackers. It's really, really cool. And they had all these really great stories of true hacking stories, and they were like, we'd love to turn them into short comics. So they approached me on LinkedIn, and I was like, well, just so you know, I didn't really make the comics at Marvel. I was just around with them. But it worked out great. I have a few criticisms of my first comic, but it's my first comic.
Yeah.
And there are definitely things that I would adjust for the next time, but I've written 4 so far. And one of them is on the site. Another one is coming soon. It's available. It's just not on the site yet. I've got to get the file. The third one is not coming out until the fall, but I've got another short one that's coming out in April.
So let me actually, while I'm having technical difficulties pulling up your website, I actually do see it. It looks very nice, by the way, even though I can't bring it into our video.
We can't share the screen. I never do that right. I'm always really afraid of
like, no,
entire networks.
like, I'm trying to, like, because I have all these like sticky tabs. Like, no, I'm not trying to show everybody the sticky tabs.
Sounds terrifying. I don't like having too many tabs open. It gives me agita.
Since it's about like dark stories and stuff, so that would be like creepypastas and stuff too.
I love those, but I'm like a basic true crime bitch.
Wow.
So funny story, my buddy Pete and I was hanging out at his house, and we were test driving a true crime podcast, and we were going to talk about the Long Island serial killer, which is like a pet interest of mine lately. And we were just talking about serial killers in general, and he started playing a song for me, and I was like, that's Charlie Manson. He's like, yeah, it is. I was like, and it's like, I could probably recognize Charlie Manson before any singer now, before like Harry Styles. I actually don't know what Harry Styles sounds like. I'm very old.
Oh, no.
Like, I watched the Grammys and I'm like, I've turned into my parents. I don't know who everyone is. I know who Beyonce is.
Yeah.
I know who Adele is. But like, then like the 50th anniversary of hip hop is like, I know these guys.
I was gonna say hip hop doesn't even exist anymore. You're old. Like, I'm old. Like, as soon as I say, oh, hip hop classics, like, oh, like, no, you're
oh
old.
no, dude. I have a couple of Spotify playlists, and one is like stuff I listened to as a teenager, like 90s grunge and lady singers like Sarah McLachlan, like Lilith Fair shit, and then then I've got a Billy Joel one because I'm from Long Island. And I love Billy Joel, but then the other one is what I call my OK Boomer list. And it's like classic rock. It's like Eagles, Beach Boys, Elvis. I mean, Queen's my favorite band. Queen is like by far my favorite band. If you go to the site, you will see my Freddie Mercury tattoo. It is like right on there. But my taste in music is not current. And that is absolutely not a reflection of today's music. It's a reflection of me being an old crone. Like, there are very talented people around these days, and I don't know what any of them sound like. But I wish them luck. Like, good luck, children.
Wow.
I hope you have long, successful careers.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't help that some of them were born after I like dropped out of college the second time, so it's a little strange.
So,
what were we talking about?
Yeah,
dark shit.
So are we gonna man, yeah, you
Try me. Did you spot Bigfoot yet?
let's see here. Hold on, wait a second. Yes, I did actually. I see him. That's awesome.
There he is. You've
That's
had a
awesome.
Bigfoot sighting. Congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a lot of props with me. This is like my pagan thing, my pagan goddess thing. And this is like my West Wing deep cut. This is a plaque that, not the plaque, but it is a replica of the plaque that appeared on Jed Bartlett's desk.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. And then I've got my what's next right here. And then behind me are like a buttload of West Wing magnets.
Wait a second. I'm gonna surprise you for a second. Hold on. Let me turn off my camera. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Keep talking. I got a surprise because I think you said like you're the ultimate, like your favorite movie was Ghostbusters, correct?
Yes.
Hold on. Hold that thought. Hold that thought.
Okay.
Oh, keep talking.
What should I keep talking about?
Anything you want.
Okay. I will tell people that there is fan fiction I have currently written that is out there in the wild. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I wrote it. I'm sorry that I published it. I'm sorry to the show I wrote it about.
Oh my God.
I was thinking about becoming a professional fan of the show on TikTok because I have so little going on right now.
I gotta wipe the tears out of my eyes. Hold on. Oh, jeez. Okay. All right, I'm back. So I think we're gonna have to plan on doing a conspiracies, dark story, true crime, horror style video, please, because I'm a huge horror fan. I'm a huge dark stories. I'm a dark web. I'll be able to say that a dark web. I just know of that stuff, and yeah, totally. We have to make a video on any.
We could come up with a reading list, a movie list.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So, 3-4 years ago, for Halloween, no, 3 or 4 years ago, it's probably longer than that, maybe 5 years ago, I needed an idea to come up with for Halloween, and everybody was dressing up as, like, at the time, I think, like, your traditional Halloween costumes or whatever. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like scratch it, like, or from scratch, like wing a Ghostbusters costume from scratch, right?
Oh my God.
Went on Amazon, bought the like Navy, or it was like an Air Force jumpsuit, like put the little, not Ghostbusters 1, but Ghostbusters 2 logos on, put it on the arms and everything. Then I was like, oh, well, how do I make my own gear? Because like I see they have like the ecto goggles, like the PKE meter. Like, how do I make this stuff? So I found like tutorials online on like how to like get basic like parts from like the auto store. Is it auto store? Yeah, auto store, like Lowe's. You go in there and like you can like literally hot glue your own like ecto goggles and stuff like that. So I went all out. Anyway, so when these came out, like I seen these. Hold on. Ugh. These were limited edition. On the box, this is how it ends, right? So I haven't even wore them yet, which is funny, but they're like the actual like Ghostbuster shoes.
Oh my God.
Back on the back and stuff. And I never wore them, and I wanted to wear them for like Halloween and stuff. And they actually have like the I don't know if you can see that, but they have like the Ghostbusters logo on the tongue and stuff. And
oh my God, that's amazing.
yeah, right. And so like I never wore them ever. Like, and I kept them in the box. I was like, maybe one day this will be a collector's item. But of course, like to like my family, they'd be like, oh, old man, what's Ghostbusters? Like, that's not cool, So I just kept them. Right?
Nonsense. Nonsense.
And even the shoe paper in the box is like the writing of like Gozer and stuff. Oh, Gozer the Gozerian. Come on.
Amazing.
Wait, before we even end this, like the last thought. So, did you see the new Ghostbusters movie?
Of course I did.
What did you think?
Wait, are we talking about Ghostbusters Afterlife?
Yes.
Or I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it. I thought they did. I don't think they could have done better. I think they did. I loved the story. I loved how they paid tribute to Harold Ramis. Egon Spengler was like my first crush. um, I was I was deeply, deeply, madly in love with Egon Spengler when I was like 9 years old, and that was like the kind of crush where you realize who you are as a person, like when you realize are you into guys or girls or everything.
Yeah.
And that was when I realized I am into men who are like this. And when Harold Ramis died, I cried for 3 days. I was so sad because I was never going to meet him and tell him how much I loved the movie and how much it meant to me, how much his stuff meant to me, because I liked everything else he did too. And when he was gone, it was like, I can't believe I'm never going to get to just tell this guy thank you. And when Afterlife came out, I was not prepared for him to die in the beginning. And I mean, I loved that movie. I loved the story so much. I love how it ended. And, it was done with everybody involved. Like, Harold Ramis's family was involved in this. So it's not like they just sort of creepily snuck him in there. And I thought that the way they did it was so sweet and just so touching. And oh God, it makes me really emotional just thinking about it. It was just so well done. And it can be like really sketchy, that kind of thing, like bringing an actor back from the dead like that. But first of all, in this context and with the family on board with it, like 100%, it was really beautiful. I thought it was really beautiful. And the story was just really sweet. And what is so exciting is that they got to make a Ghostbusters movie with such good special effects. And
Yeah.
I mean, the first two, I love Ghostbusters too, and I will die on that hill. But like, and the effects were amazing for the time, but they could always be better. Like, of course they could always be better. There's always going to be new technology and new advancements, and people discover things every 5 minutes now.
Sure.
But so seeing Ghostbusters with newfangled technology and stuff like it was amazing to see that. It was amazing to see that in Paul Feig's movie.
Yeah.
Like another movie which also I liked. Fuck everyone else. Some of us have been wanting to be Ghostbusters since we were 9 years old, and our only choice was that like slutty Ghostbusters costume. And then finally, there are lady Ghostbusters who are Saturday Night Live comedians, just like I wanted to be. It was like I was watching my dream come true, and everyone around me was shitting all over it. So fuck you, and fuck you. I liked it. But I did like Afterlife a lot better. Not every movie has to be the best fucking movie you've ever seen. It can be fun, and that's enough.
Yeah.
And I feel like the expectations, one, were too high, and also there are a lot of whiny crybabies out there.
Yeah.
So fuck those guys. Sorry, but I don't care if you have a problem with women like that. If you're a filthy little incel, that's not my problem. That's yours.
I just yeah.
What's next?
So
So are you ready for the hate mail? Because I'm not. My email address is right on that stupid site I sent you.
Like, please direct all that attention to jamiefrevele.com.
You can send it to jamie.frevele at WWE.
Why is it stuck in my brain to say Frevele? Like, seriously.
Oh, Frevele. That's like. So there are many ways people pronounce it. I actually have relatives who gave up on correcting people, and I'll never do that. They're like, yeah, we're Frevele. I'm just like, wow.
Frevele? Frevele? Like, yeah.
Frevele? Frevele?
Everybody, please go to Jamie's website below, please.
And don't send me hate mail. I'm not in the mood for it. I'm not in the mood for it.
Please like this video. Please, I beg you. leave a comment for Jamie on the video, please.
I'm not going to read it.
Where do we?
What? You can't follow me. I'm not on Twitter.
This Jamie is a ghost from the system. Okay, if you guys didn't know this by now, okay, that since she is obviously in the world of not only writing but heavily in conspiracies and stuff. There was no way to trace her. That's the only website that you got.
So and it just happened today, so I can delete it tonight.
She's off the grid, folks. Off the grid. But
I have an Instagram, but it's private, and I don't know you.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you can visit the website below at
JamieFrevele.com.
JamieFrevele.com.
Learn how to spell it, or just click on it.
Exactly.
Just click on it. It's not hard to do that.
I'll put a link in the description of the video below, so you can go to our
pronunciation
website.
Key.
Yeah, with it's JamieFrevele.com. So
it'll only work if you pronounce it correctly.
Yes. Or if you don't pronounce it correctly, you might end up at another website.
And that site will crash your computer.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't even know how to I want to thank you for being a guest on this the story arc. See, the story arc show is all about story writers. Like a story arc, so like this show is basically bringing together writers, introducing writers to everybody, and just exposing and getting more attention, more exposure. And I just want to say, it was a pleasure talking to you for an hour, and I feel like it's not even an hour, it's just like you keep on making me laugh. So
I appreciate that. I was actively trying not to just now.
The queen of comedy. There we go.
Okay, and yeah, next time we can talk about how all I write about are destroying men. I'm not scary.
Jamie Frevele. Oh my God! See, I said it again.
Now you're gonna crash your computer. That's it.
Where JamieFrevele.com. Please go to our website. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. I was Max Prime. This is Jamie Frevele. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, buddy.
She'll be back.
Thanks.